It's the Joe Show. Good morning and welcome to the Joe Show with me, Joe. So this is the show where I get up in the morning, I read an article, I report on it, you learn something, I learn something, we're all winners. So the other day I read an article that mentioned improving your confidence. And so today I had an article come across my desk that was entitled 4 Habits of Highly Confident People from Nick Wignall. Stop running from your fear and learn how to master it. Actually, it's an awesome article. I think Nick did a really good job writing this. So I'm going to do a new thing here. This is a too long, won't watch, meaning, hey, your videos are too long, I don't want to watch it. So here are the facts that you need to take away from the 4 habits, or I guess the 4 habits. These are the 4 habits of highly successful people, of highly confident people. Those 4 facts are: first, accept fear instead of running away from it. Communicate assertively. Make decisions based on values, not on feelings. And embrace self-compassion for mistakes. So those are the 4 habits of highly confident people. But let's get into the article to dive into each one of those points and learn what exactly it means. And now Nick, I think, is a psychologist, so he has a really nice background for giving advice on how to be more confident. Let's see here. Nick says, when most people think about the word confidence, they associate it with the lack of fear or lack of self-doubt. They look on and wonder and think, look at that confident coworker. They can just speak their mind without a care in the world for what other people or the boss thinks. And it's true that while confident people often feel less anxious than the rest of us, there's a bit more to the story of highly confident people. And that is that confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the belief that you'll be okay despite your fears. In other words, confident people haven't figured out how to eliminate their fear. They've changed their relationship with it. So then, first point of how we can become more confident is accept our fear instead of running away from it. So as we've said, confidence people don't lack fear. They just have a healthier relationship with it. The biggest mistake Nick sees with people trying to become more confident is that they try to eliminate or avoid their fear altogether. But this is dangerous for a couple reasons. Eliminating your fear is impossible. Our brain evolved it as a threat detection system. For example, when you hear the rattle of a mama rattlesnake in the bushes next to you on the trail that you're hiking on, your threat detection system kicks in, that fear, that fight or flight response, and it releases adrenaline and increases your heart rate and muscle tension, and also narrows your attention, your attentional focus, and it can feel sometimes like time is even slowing down. We might not like it, but this fear system is there for a good reason. And so fear can be very useful when we're trying to avoid danger, and thus suppressing the fear or running away from it is not useful. If you're going to die, you're not going to die if you flub the intro of a presentation in front of the whole company. But the fear system still kicks in, and we can use that to our advantage. So when the fear system gets activated, your body releases adrenaline, which is a powerful performance enhancer, both physically and mentally. And everything from your attention and memory to your reaction improves with a little adrenaline. So good performers and athletes and speakers actually harness this power to their advantage. If you avoid the fear, run away from it, you're actually creating anxiety. So at the heart of every chronic anxiety issue is a simple process. When you try to eliminate or run away from fear, you teach your brain to be afraid of fear itself. And in the long term, that makes you chronically anxious. Confident people don't eliminate the fear, they embrace it. So a simple way to build your confidence and cultivate a better relationship with fear is to practice naming it and acknowledging it. So when you feel afraid, name it. You can give it a name like, I don't know, Bill. If Bill comes around, you can be like, Bill's here, meaning I'm afraid. By simply telling yourself, I am afraid and that's okay. I'm afraid of Bill and that's okay. Or I'm hanging out with Bill and that's okay. You're beginning the process of retraining your brain not to be afraid of fear itself. And the more it believes that to be true, the more confident you will become and the more confident you're going to feel in the future. So I personally I give a lot of speeches, and I still get nervous. I get afraid sometimes. And actually, I know it's a natural reaction, but still sometimes it gets the best of me and it transitions over to anxiety. So I'm actually going to try naming my fear. I don't know what his or her name will be, but I'm going to try naming my fear next time I feel afraid. Hopefully I can embrace it and actually harness the power of the adrenaline to enhance my performance instead of, just sitting in my own mind worrying about whatever's happening. Next up is communicating assertively. So confident people communicate their own needs honestly and respectfully. On the other hand, people with low self-confidence routinely put aside their own wants and needs in favor of someone else's. Let's look at some examples. The adult woman who's afraid of upsetting her mother, that she drops everything, even the needs of her own family, anytime mom calls. I know people like that, actually. A timid employee who says yes to every request anyone makes of him at work and ends up feeling chronically stressed out and anxious as a result. Guilty. Been there. I don't do that anymore, but I've for sure always said yes to things, and then I always end up feeling stressed out and anxious. Always. Never fails. The passive spouse who never brings up their unhappiness in the marriage for fear of rocking the boat or making the other person angry. Not guilty. Judge, I rest my case. If you always put other people's wants and needs before your own, you're going to feel unworthy. And it's awfully hard to feel confident if you don't think you're worthy. Confident people believe that their wants and needs are every bit as valid and important as other people's, and they act accordingly in the following ways. They ask for what they want clearly and respectfully. They respect others' right to say yes or no, just as they respect their own right to ask. And they say no to what they don't want and are not willing to do, and they enforce boundaries with people. That's easy for them, you say, Joe. They're already confident. I could ask for what I wanted if I felt as confident as they do. Listen, Nick says, the problem here is mistaking cause and effect. Yes, confident people have an easier time communicating assertively because they feel confident, but they only feel confident because they're willing to be assertive even when it's hard. Nobody likes saying no and disappointing people, but confident people do it anyway if it's the right thing to do. Confidence comes from doing the right thing even if it feels difficult in the moment. So if you want to feel more confident, here's what we can do. Ask for what you want clearly and respectfully, say no to what you don't want, and set and enforce healthy boundaries. If you respect yourself enough to communicate assertively, confidence will not be far behind. And again, this is all easier said and read than done. But if you start getting it in your mind, eventually over time, you can build a pattern. And then you will all of a sudden one day have somebody be like, you've changed. You seem more confident and assertive and willing to say no to things. And I respect that about you. I guarantee you over time, somebody will eventually say that. Third one is making decisions based on values and not feelings. So confident people build trust in themselves by prioritizing values over feelings. The secret ingredient to feeling more confident is trust, but it's a specific form of trust. Confident people trust themselves to do the right thing no matter what they feel. Let's unpack that. Nick says, people who lack confidence are constantly putting aside what they really want and value because they're afraid of how they will feel or how others will feel. Here's an example of how that works. You're sitting at home, your partner suggests watching a romantic comedy for the third night in a row. And even though you'd rather watch a drama, you're afraid they'll be upset or annoyed if you say no. So without much deliberation, you do what feels easier in the moment and you just say, yeah, let's watch the romantic comedy. You know what? This is a silly example, but I think it actually drives home a great point. And a lot of people in relationships unhealthy relationships are making value sacrifices because they don't want to upset the other person. I have been so guilty of this in the past. It's not even funny. And it's led me down some really dark paths. So I will always in the future stand up for my values and I will not compromise on them. Never. Confidence comes from trusting yourself to act on your values instead of your feelings. If you want to feel more confident, look for small ways to choose values over feeling. For example, do 2 extra minutes on the treadmill even though you feel tired. This is something I've done. I have done exercise since I've been 17, so I've been doing it for over a decade. And even though sometimes I'm on the treadmill and I know I need to hit 15 minutes, I would have stopped at 10. But there are other times where I'm at 15 minutes and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to keep going for another 10 minutes, another 5 minutes, another 2 minutes, whatever. And it's just small ways that, every day is not going to be a perfect day. But if you can start doing it in small ways, adding those extra 2 minutes, even though you feel tired, taking out the trash, even though it's not your job, it's your spouse's job, or it's not your job at work, whatever it is. Reading the report over one more time, even though you're sick and tired and want to be done with it. Those small things really help instill great values, and then will allow you to stand up for those values if pushed in the future. We all know we rightly admire and believe in people who are principled, people who put doing the right thing above what's easy or expected. Those are our heroes. So get in the habit of choosing values over feelings, and your self-respect and confidence will soar. And last but not least, we have embracing self-compassion after mistakes. I know personally I am really, really, really bad at this. So bad at this. I have a lot of negative self-talk. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I personally have a lot of negative self-talk. So how can we stop this? Confident people know that beating themselves up after mistakes is no way to succeed long-term. Can confirm. In many ways, confidence is less about what you do and more about what you don't do. There's no better example of this than how we respond to mistakes, setbacks, and failures. A common pattern in people with low self-confidence is that they are overly critical and judgmental with themselves when they do something wrong. And they say things like, I knew I would screw this up. I should have never tried that in the first place. I wish I wasn't so anxious all the time. People are never going to respect me if I'm always nervous. I'm just the worst. I'm an idiot. No wonder why nobody likes me. The reason why I'm so good at saying that is because I say it in my head. I can't admit it. So there are two major problems with responding like this after a setback. One, negative self-talk is almost always unrealistic and is often overly black and white. I wish I wasn't so anxious all the time. Obviously, you're not anxious all the time. Or makes assumptions without real data. People are never going to respect me. Of course, some people respect you. It's never just that black and white or absolute. Negative self-talk makes us feel worse about ourselves and makes it harder to act with confidence the next time. In other words, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Confident people understand that it's simply unhelpful to beat yourself up when you're already down. It doesn't do any good and should be avoided at all costs, because in addition to making you feel worse about yourself, it erodes your confidence over time. When they make a mistake, confident people simply treat themselves the way they would treat a good friend, with compassion. So the next time you have a setback, next time you have a mistake, don't get in your head and start blaming yourself and yelling at yourself, telling yourself you're worthless and that you're gonna screw it up next time and that you always screw it up. But have a little compassion for yourself as if your coworker screwed up, and what you would say to them if they screwed up. It's not a big deal. No one really noticed. We have it as second one in 2 weeks, and we'll kill it then. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. So that has been the article 4 Habits of Highly Confident People. And they were, again, accepting fear instead of running away from it, communicating assertively, making decisions based on your values, not fears, and then embracing self-compassion after mistakes. Hope you learned something today. I know I did. I think this was an awesome article. I'll link to the original article in the description below. Speaking of the description, if you could subscribe to The Joe Show, I'm uploading these daily, even though it's a huge hassle for me, but I'm doing it because I love doing this, and I think it's going to be really great. So subscribe to my show. Follow me on Instagram, A Joe Show. And then I will see you tomorrow. And in the meantime, read something good. This has been The Joe Show.